Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Gilang Akbar from K1 class of Maritime Raja Al Haji University. My name is 2103050062. Today I want to tell a story about Malayan history or Malay trip history. Okay. The Malays are the race of people who inhabit the Malay Peninsula, what is today Peninsular Malaysia, and portions of adjacent islands of Southeast Asia, including the east coast of Sumatra, the coast of Borneo, and smaller islands that lie between these areas. The tribal Proto-Malays or Jakun were our seafaring people. They were once probably a people of coastal Borneo who expanded into Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula as a result of their trading and seafaring way of life. The sea tribes, referred to by a Portuguese historian, Godinho de Heredia as Selates, Orang Selat or people of the Straits, played a major part in the making of the great Malay empires of Malacca and Johor. The present-day Malays of the peninsula and coast of the Malay archipelago are described anthropologically as Deutero-Malays and are descendants of the tribal Proto-Malays mixed with modern Indian, Thai, Arabian, and Chinese blue. Okay. Malay culture itself has been strongly influenced by that of other peoples, including the Sriamase, Javanese, Sumatran, and especially Indians. The influence of Hindu India was historically very great, and the Malay were largely Hinduism before they were converted to Islam in the 15th century. For nearly 2,000 years, the unremitting traffic of traders between the archipelago and India resulted in frequent intermarriage along the whole of the west coast of the peninsula, especially Tamils and Gujaratis. Some Hindu rituals survive in Malay culture, as in the second part of the marriage ceremony and in various ceremonies of state. Malays have also preserved some of their more ancient animistic beliefs in spirits of the soil and jungle, often having recourse to the medicine men or shamans for the treatment of ailments. In the northern states of Perlis and Kedah, intermarriage with Thais were commonplace. The east coast state of Kalimantan still has traces of Javanese culture that date back to the era of the Majapahit Empire of the 14th century. The Sumatran kingdom of Aceh dominated Perak for over a century. The Bugis from Indonesian Celebes Island colonized Selangor and fought for rulers in states along the length of the peninsula, from Kedah to Johor. The Minangkabau from Sumatra had their own independent chiefdoms in what is today Negeri Sembilan. This mix of different races to form what is the modern Malay can be clearly seen in the lineage of, for example, Malacca royalty. Sultan Muhammad Shah married a Tamil from South India. Sultan Mansur Shah married a Javanese, a Chinese, a Siamese. The Siamese wife bore two future sultans of Pahang. It was this diversity of race, cultures, and influence that has given the modern Malay race the rich and unique historical heritage it has today. Malay in Indonesia have location in Sumatra and its eastern offshore island like Borneo coast, also outside Indonesia on the Malay Peninsula. Population is 7 million on Sumatra in 2000 census. Another estimate runs to over 30 million. The combined total of Malays living in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Brunei, and Singapore may be over 25 million. Malay in Indonesia. One possible origin for the term Malay or Melayu may be a Dravidian from South India. Expression Mala or hill people. It is ironic, therefore, that it should come to refer to a maritime people with a sophisticated urban Islamic tradition. Highlanders throughout the archipelago are considered most tenacious in their paganism. Of course, popular usage in English extends Malays indigenous inhabitants of Indonesia Other Papuans, Malaysia, and the Philippines will share, at the very least, Austronesian language and Southern Mongoloid physical features. This article will focus on the specific ethnic group in Western Indonesia known as Malay. Malay have identified and to a great extent still do identify more with the diverse small regions, once independent sultanates, to which they are native than with a broader Malay ethnicity. For centuries in the archipelago, converting to Islam was known as Masuk Melayu, literally entering Malayness. Thus, being Malay means sharing in a cosmopolitan culture, including as its key ingredients Islam and the maritime lingua franca called Bahasa Melayu. Common ancestry was not the decisive factor, as individuals Malays might count Batak, Kubu, Javanese, Bugis, and others, as well as Arabs, Indians, Siamese, and Chinese among their forebears. According to the latest scholarship, around the time of Priest, the ancestor of the Malays and other closely related groups began migrating from Kalimantan to the Sumatra coast, where they absorbed or displaced fellow Austronesian people who had settled there centuries before, foreigners of, among others, the Batak. In the early centuries, Malay seafarers played the role of the first intermediaries between China on the one hand and India and the Mediterranean on the other. Sumatra itself was famous as Suvarnadvipa, or the Gold Island, and as the store of camphor and other exotic items. As early as the 5th century, various Sumatran kingdoms enjoyed relations with China. By the late 7th century, one of the states came to overshadow all others and would establish the tradition around which a Malay identity would grow. Centered near the present-day city of Palembang in South Sumatra, the kingdom of Sriwijaya dominated the Strait of Malacca region until its decline in the 11th century, partly due to a devastating attack from the South Indian Chola state. In its heyday, Sriwijaya was legendary as a center of international trade and of Buddhism. After shifting to the rival state of Melayu, or modern Jambi, leadership of the Malay world came to the rest of in Malacca on the west coast of the Malay Peninsula, founded by a refugee prince from Palembang in 1000. Like Sriwijaya, Malacca controlled traffic through the strait and promoted a universal religion, though it was Islam which it most successfully propagated. Meanwhile, Palembang itself became first an enclave of Chinese pirates and then the home of a highly Javanese version of Malay culture. The Portuguese capture of Malacca in 159 encouraged the rise through the region of small sultanates, often founded by Bugis, Minangkabau, and Arab adventurers, and prospering on the paper trade until the mid-17th century. First linguistically non-Malay Aceh and then Riau Johor inherited Malacca's leadership of the Malay world to a certain extent. In the 18th century, Dutch, British, and even French maritime power began to limit the freedom of the Malay states. In the early 19th century, British and Dutch colonialism split the Malay world into Malayan and Sumatran halves, a division with cultural consequences that persists to this day despite renewed post-colonial interchange and participation in a common regional economy centered on Singapore, the present-day successor of Sriwijaya and Malacca. Along the east coast of Sumatra by the late 19th century, a flourishing plantation economy, tobacco and rubber, developed under Dutch rule, the product of collaboration between European capitalists and Malay sultans and thousands upon thousands of Chinese and Japanese coolies. This region experienced considerable upheaval during the Indonesian struggle for independence, which included violence against the native aristocracy, one victim of which was Prince Amir Hamzah, the greatest poet in Bahasa Indonesia in the 1930s and 1940. Since that time, Sumatra, East Coast, and adjacent islands have experienced rapid development, fueled by oil and tin wool as well as proximity to Singapore and Malaysia. According to the 2000 census, Malays self-identifying as such were Indonesia's third largest ethnic group, constituting of 3.4% of the population and numbering almost 7 million. Indonesians Malay live primarily on Sumatra in the province of North Sumatra, East Coast, Riau Island and mainland, where they equal 38% of the population according to the 2000 census. Jambi 38%, South Sumatra 31%, Bangka Belitung 72%, and Bengkulu, the interior of this province, is largely inhabited by non-Malay, such as the Kubu and the Rejang. In the coastal regions, non-Malays are also numerous, especially Javanese transmigrants. Figure from the 1990s estimate the number there to be as high as 13 million. Obviously based on different criteria than 2000 census. In addition, Malays inhabit the Malay Peninsula as well as communities along the Borneo coast like Indonesian Kalimantan, Malaysian Sarawak, and Sabah and Brunei. Half of Malaysia's 2006 population of 26.6 million or about 13.3 million was Malay, while Pattani and 3 other provinces in southern Thailand were over 80% Malay. A 1998 estimate put the number of speakers of the Pattani Malay dialect at 3.1 million. Okay. Language. Malay is most closely related to Minangkabau Iban, the Sidayak of Borneo, and Aceh most closely to Sundanese, Madurese, and Javanese. It is spoken in several divergent dialects. The dialect of Riau Johor, considered a direct legacy of the Malacca Sultanate, is estimated as the purest of Finnish Malay and has become the basis of the official language of Indonesia, Malay, Brunei, and after English and Mandarin Chinese of Singapore. The Malay spoken in Sumatra differs from the of Malay in employing Dutch rather than English loanwords, and it lacks the Javanese and other influence characteristic of the Malay spoken in Jakarta and the cities of Java that is so influential in modern colloquial and written Indonesian. Long before European colonialism, one could make oneself understood throughout maritime Southeast Asia and as far away as port in South China and Persia. In Malay, in its own right and as a vehicle for Sanskrit, Arabic, and Portuguese loanwords. Malay had a profound impact on language throughout Indonesia and the Philippines. Okay. Religion. Okay. Islam has been integral to the Malay identity since at least the 14th century, if not as early as the 12th. As such, it enters into every aspect of the culture. Although it is regarded as spiritual idolatry, Bomo or shamans are still known to invoke the Hindu Batara Guru and other figures not as gods but as powerful supernatural beings. The chanting of Islamic texts such as the Quran and the Barzanji tells of the life of Muhammad, often accompanied by the playing of tambourines, rabana, berdah, or kerompang, accompany ceremonies such as circumcision and weddings. At 7 years of age, children begin to learn how to read the Quran, mastering the proper pronunciation, emphasis, rhythm, and tone. However, they usually do not understand what they are reading word for word. This is a preset skill, and especially expert readers compete in regional and national contests like Muasabaqah Tilawatil Quran that are televised with pre-game or intermission shows of folk dance of an Islamic spirit, like bernafaskan Islam. Interpersonal relations. Originally, the village was composed of people of the same lineage, but as outsiders have come to settle there, the bond of common living place has taken precedence of over lineage ties. These communities are small, such that everyone knows each other well and works together in daily activities, helps each other in emergencies or in holding each other's major celebrations. Villagers are careful to gauge each other's feelings and appeal to the imam or penghulu to resolve conflicts quickly. Each individual's internal sense of shame, self-respect, or personal and familial faith, rather than external coercion, maintains social harmony. A person endeavors to avoid being marked as a person who does not know custom, who offends by appearance, word, and action. Community leadership includes a penghulu, a village head, now selected according to government regulations from among the head of the various suku. An imam serves as the head of the mosque, leader of Quran recitation and religious education, authority in matters of marriage, divorce, and inheritance, and collector of the tithe, zakat. A datuk is a suku head who has become a territorial chief with power over the suku heads. Since Indonesian independence, social relations has been democratized, with personality, position, and material situation carrying more weight than hereditary rank alone. In the kingdom of Siak, Riau mainland, society was traditionally divided into four classes: the Sultan or Raja and his consorts, descendants of the present of former Rajas, the good people, the heads of prominent suku, and commoners, using Javanese terms such as Priyayi. Parliament society distinguishes the following upper strata: the Raden, Raden Ayu, descendants of royal consorts, Mas Agus, Mas Ayu, descendants of royal concubines, Kemas, Nyimas, descendants of royal concubines, and Kiai Agus or Niayu for ulama or religious scholars. The last one is living conditions. Houses are raised on posts and their walls are made of wooden planks. Their roofs of dried leaves or shingles. The exact plan differs from region to region. In Riau, two kinds are known: the rumah melintang or rumah bubungan Melayu, with a rectangular plan and a long ridge pole, and the rumah limas with a square plan and a short ridge pole. The four sides of the roof slant towards the top. The front, often at a lower level than the floor of the main part of the house, is a selaso or veranda that may be enclosed with a low wall of sago palm reddish wood. The kitchen structure stands behind the main houses, connected to it by an intervening chamber.